Welcome back. Zimbabweans will finally go to the polls on the 30th of July 2018 to elect a new government. This will be the first election in Zimbabwe that won't see former President Robert Mugabe on the ballot paper. Opposition parties and the ruling ZANU-PF have called for conducive conditions for campaigning and voting. The Constitutional Court, meanwhile, has dismissed a court application that would have seen Zimbabweans in the diaspora voting outside the borders for the first time. Now, Tamuka Chirimambowa is a political analyst who has been following events as they unfold in Zimbabwe. He now joins us via Skype from Harare, Zimbabwe. Tamuka, good evening and thank you very much for joining us on SABC News. Now, is Zimbabwe ready for this election?
Hello? Good evening.
Yes, Tamuka, I can hear you clearly. It's Tabile here. I'm saying, is Zimbabwe ready for this election?
We can't say Zimbabwe is ready for this election. I think the elections was a bit hurried. There would have been a need for a bit of some time to deal with the hygienic factors around the election. Like at the moment, the voter inspection was closed yesterday, where people. But the reality of it is that people were simply inspecting where there's no provisional voters roll. So you were just going to check if your name is there. So it's an unclean voters roll that is being inspected, which is not even a provisional. So there should have been a provisional voters roll, and then people would go to inspect it. So you see, one thing which is happening is that this election is being hurried, and even the electoral law was only signed yesterday, and the elections date were gazetted today. So everything is just hurried, and I don't think, looking at what has been happening within the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, I can safely say Zimbabwe is ready for election. But I think it's just a question of trying to rush everything and make sure that they have elections. But I believe maybe they could have maybe tried to have the elections in August and try to vigorously address the sticking issues which are being raised, particularly around the electoral process, to make sure that they remove any suspicions, so that whatever result comes of this process won't be disputed, but will become something that is agreeable to all parties.
Tamuka, let's talk about observers now. The head of the last European Union observer mission, Pierre Shori, who was thrown out of Zimbabwe in 2002 on the eve of the presidential elections, this act was actually condemned as flawed. Now, is there any assurance this time that observers will not be troubled in this election process?
I think looking at this, yes, we will have observers in these elections. They are coming, but I think much of the process is about this election is going to be about the technical administration of the elections, which will be something which is generally outside the purview of the observers. You find that the observers in this election, because already when you look at the environment, one commendable thing so far is that it has been generally peaceful. And the environment, there hasn't been the naked or the brazen violence, which has been a characteristic of most of the Zimbabwean elections. And parties seems to have been campaigning and moving freely. But when you come to the technical administration of the elections, which would actually make sure that the level field or the playing field is fair and is even, and everyone is, and every vote would be made to count without any chicanery playing in. This is where the crux of the matter is. And I don't think the observer missions are in a capacity to be able to actually observe and deal with this issue. But when it comes to the issues around the general, atmosphere outside the technical aspect of the elections, this is why I see the observers actually going to have quite a significant and big role. But I don't think that they won't be much of the disputes are not going to center around issues of violence as it has been in the previous election, but rather than the technical administration of the election.
Now, what about Zimbabweans in the diaspora? Again, all signs are that they won't be eligible to vote.
Yeah, I mean, because the highest court has made a ruling, but actually it put praise to the whole issue that of the diaspora vote. And I think it would have been something that would have been good to have a diaspora vote, given the significant proportion of Zimbabweans in the diaspora, and as well the contribution of the diaspora to the Zimbabwean economy. Like last year, they contributed close to $1 billion US American dollars in terms of official remittances. But certainly it's much more of a legal and a constitutional issue. So it actually, because if you look at even the issue of the diaspora vote within the constitution, is something which was actually left much more to be defined more by the, which was actually delegated to Parliament through a subsidiary legislation. But actually the Constitution did not make it express to make it something which has to, that a diaspora vote is mandatory, the diaspora are allowed to vote. So, but I think the ruling for the Constitutional Court actually puts, it actually put to rest that kind of debate to say will the diaspora vote or not. The ideal situation would have been to have them to vote. But now, given that the ruling has been made, almost like 2 months just before the elections, I don't see anything happening. And as well, when the Electoral Act, the new Electoral Act has been signed into law. So I think that is, it becomes more of an academic or a mundane debate to entertain that argument. But I think much more now would have to focus on those who will be within Zimbabwe.
Tamuka, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on SABC News. That was political analyst Tamuka Chirimambowa joining us via Skype from Harare in Zimbabwe. I'm back with more news after the break. Stay with us.